Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. I was halfway through my lasagna when she said it. No warning, no build-up. Just set her fork down and said, I'm getting sterilized next month. I don't want kids. I'm done thinking about it. I stared at her for maybe 2 seconds. Not angry, just blank. Like I'd been hit with a 2x4 but couldn't feel it yet. My name's Derek. I'm 32. I live in Springfield, Missouri. I build my life by the book. Spreadsheets, 5-year goals, backup plans for the backup plans. I met Dana when we were both 24. She was sharp, funny, driven. I liked that she had goals too. We clicked because we built things. Not literally, but we planned. 3 years dating, 5 years married. The blueprint was solid. Pay off her car. Build credit. Buy a fixer-upper. Then try for kids. Not maybe. Not someday. We agreed, we wanted a family. 3 months ago, we bought the house. Big yard. Good bones. Outdated everything. I spent my evenings sanding floors, patching drywall, sweating in the garage. I picked out paint swatches for a nursery. Dana even helped hang wallpaper. That night over dinner, I was telling her about knocking down the wall between the den and the guest room. Open up the space, I said. It'd be a perfect playroom someday. That's when she dropped the bomb. Calm. Final. Like it was nothing. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said, okay, your body, your call. Because it is. I'm not that guy. But inside, everything in me just folded. Quick note, before we go deeper, tell us, where are you watching from today? I cleaned my plate, washed it, dried it, put it back in the cabinet. Dana kept scrolling her phone like we hadn't just set fire to our life plan. I excused myself, went down to the basement, and stared at my drafting table for maybe half an hour. My hands itched to build something. Anything. But the only thing left to build was an exit. She hadn't just made a decision. She made it without me. And I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't us anymore. It was her, doing her thing, while I played handyman in the background. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. And by the time the sun came up, I had a new plan. I was up before Dana's alarm even went off. She got dressed in silence, grabbed her yoga mat, and left without a word. Probably thought I was still stewing about the kid thing. Truth was, I'd already made peace with it, just not the way she expected. The second the door closed, I grabbed my laptop, opened my private folder, and called the lawyer I'd bookmarked months ago. Not because I expected this, just because I planned for everything. I'm ready to file, I said. He asked no questions, just told me what to send, what to sign. 30 minutes later, it was in motion. Next, I logged into our joint bank account. Half of it was mine, technically more, since most of it came from the inheritance I got when my dad passed. But I didn't argue with the math. I moved exactly half into a new account with my name only. Then I grabbed my duffel bag and started packing. 3 days of clothes, my tools, laptop, toothbrush, not much else. There was only one thing I took from the house that actually mattered. The drafting table. I'd built it 6 years ago, right after we got engaged. Solid oak. Sturdy as hell. Hidden drawer under the right side that clicked open with just the right pressure. That's where I kept my dad's old blueprints, the ones he drew when I was a kid. Some of his favorite tools, too. I planned to pass them down someday. That table came with me. By the time Dana got home, I was waiting in the living room. Backpack at my feet. Paperwork in my hand. She walked in sweaty, water bottle tucked under her arm, all relaxed like it was any other Saturday. She took one look at my face and stopped in her tracks. What's going on? She asked. I held out the envelope. She opened it, blinked at the papers, and then looked at me like I'd just slapped her. Are you serious? I didn't say anything. You're throwing away a perfect marriage? She snapped. No, I said. You made a new plan without me. I'm just catching up. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Then the heat came rushing in. So that's it. One disagreement, and you just walk out? Over a theoretical child? Not theoretical to me, I said. She shook her head like I was crazy. We agreed we'd wait a few years. I didn't blindside you. I almost laughed. You scheduled a medical procedure behind my back. You didn't tell me. You informed me. I don't need your permission for what I do with my body, she shot back. Didn't say you did, I replied. Just pointing out that you made a decision that affects both of us, by yourself. You're seriously going to throw away everything we've built? I looked around. What exactly is left? The foundation's gone, Dana. That hit. She went quiet, just for a second. Then the tears started, fast, angry ones. "You're a coward," she hissed. "You'd rather run than work through something like an adult." I stayed calm. I'd already done my yelling, just silently, the night before. "I built this life with you," I said. "Every piece of it. But I was building something we both wanted. You changed the blueprint without telling me. So no, I'm not staying in a house with no walls and calling it home." She threw the papers on the couch and stormed off down the hall. I heard the door slam. I didn't chase her. I picked up my bag, walked outside, and strapped the drafting table into the back of my truck. As I backed out of the driveway, I glanced at the house one last time. The porch light was still on, same as always, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. Whatever we'd been, whatever we'd planned, it was done. And for the first time in 8 years, I wasn't afraid of starting over. By the end of that week, Dana had hired a lawyer with a real talent for creative fiction. Alimony, emotional distress, abandonment. She told them I'd blindsided her. Claimed she'd been planning to discuss the sterilization with me, but didn't get the chance. Said I'd left her broken and humiliated. That I was punishing her for making a personal medical choice. My lawyer and I just listened. We had receipts. They wanted half the house sale, half the savings again, and, get this, the drafting table. "The table?" I asked, staring at the email. My lawyer nodded. "They're calling it a marital asset." I damn near laughed. "That table's older than the marriage. I built it with my own hands, in my apartment, 3 years before we even moved in together." She hated the thing. She'll argue it was used during the marriage and became shared property. I dug up photos that same night. Me, sweat-streaked and sunburned, sanding that thing on my apartment balcony in Dallas. Time-stamped. I found the receipt for the lumber. Saved the digital plans. Even had a text from Dana back then. "Looks like a medieval torture rack, LOL." My lawyer bundled it all up and sent it off. "We're not negotiating on this," he told them. That's when her family got involved. It started with a text from her oldest sister, Laura. "You need to grow up and stop throwing away a good woman because of some fantasy kid." Then another one from the middle sister, Karen. "Yeah, really. You devastated her. She can't eat. She's in therapy." They flooded my phone for days. Guilt, accusations, all of it wrapped in fake concern. I ignored them. Blocked too. But then something unexpected happened. Jess, her youngest brother's ex, reached out. We hadn't talked in years. I barely remembered her from the wedding. But her message was short, clear, and cut through all the noise. "I'm sorry, man. I had no idea she'd changed her mind and didn't tell you." I stared at that text for a long minute. Then typed back, "Appreciate that. Seriously." She replied. She told me once, months ago, she didn't want kids anymore. Said she felt trapped just thinking about it. That hit harder than any of the other crap. Dana hadn't just made a last-minute decision. She'd known. She'd made peace with it. But never told me. All those nights I spent painting baseboards, installing cabinet hardware, talking about playroom layouts. She just let me ramble on. Let me plan a future she'd already rejected. That's not forgetting. That's betrayal. Meanwhile, the table stayed in storage at my buddy Zach's shop. I didn't want it sitting in some unit or garage where she'd accidentally stumble across it. The drawer was still locked, sealed with a little brass latch that only opened with a trick push. Inside, my dad's folded blueprints, his measuring tape, and the wood-handled chisel he used when I was 8 and watching from the garage steps. That drawer was supposed to open again someday, with a kid sitting next to me, hands on the table. I hadn't touched it since the night I left, but I thought about it every damn day. The funny part? She'd never cared about that table. Not once. Called it bulky, too deep, too heavy to move. Tried to hide it behind a folding screen when guests came over. But the second she realized I took it with me, it became gold. That's all you need to know about how real the fight was. This wasn't about money. Wasn't about distress. It was about control. And that table, my table, was something she couldn't rewrite. Jess texted me again the next day. Just a simple, "How you holding up?" I stared at it a second, thumbs hovering. I wasn't sure why I replied. Maybe because she wasn't trying to fix anything. She wasn't demanding a side. She was just there. We talked about nothing, at first. Music, work, that heat wave rolling through Missouri. Then I asked her about what she said, that Dana had already decided months ago. She told me she felt like her body wasn't hers anymore. Jess wrote back. Like she'd sold it off to this idea of being a mom that she never really wanted. Did she say when? I asked. January. Around New Year's. That was 3 months before we bought the house. So yeah, she knew. That night, I told Jess everything. Not just about the divorce, but about the table, the plans, the drawer. I told her how I'd pictured building toy boxes and race car beds. How I felt like I'd been laying bricks for a future Dana had quietly bulldozed. She didn't send advice. No pep talk. Just, I get it. That's brutal. I'm sorry. We kept texting. Every day. A week later, I asked if she wanted to grab coffee. Not a date. Just two people standing in the wreckage, trying to breathe. She showed up early. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing an old Cardinals hoodie. First thing she said was, I forgot how good Springfield smells in the fall. We sat outside. Talked about old jobs, busted relationships, family drama. Nothing heavy. Nothing forced. Then I mentioned the table. You still have it? She asked. Stored it at my buddy's shop. Didn't trust it in a storage unit. She leaned forward. How'd you join the top boards? Dowels. I blinked. Tongue and groove, actually. You know furniture joinery? A little, she said, grinning. Took a few classes in college. I sucked at it, but I remember the terms. It was the first time in months I felt visible. Not tolerated. Not blamed. Seen. She didn't look at me like a failed husband or an angry man with a grudge. She just listened. Asked questions because she was curious, not because she was checking boxes. We kept meeting up. Always in public. Always casual. Then Dana found out. No clue who told her, but 2 days later, I got a voicemail I didn't even finish. Screaming. Accusations. Cheating. Manipulation. Brainwashing her family. She texted Jess, too. Called her a traitor, said she was just as selfish and pathetic as me. Jess sent me a screenshot, then blocked her. My lawyer fired off a formal warning. Harassment. If she kept it up, we'd file. After that, Dana went quiet. At least legally. Her sisters still poked around with guilt-bait texts, but I didn't bite. Jess and we kept talking. Kept laughing. Neither of us tried to name it yet. We didn't need to. Not everything broken needs to be rebuilt. Some things just need space to breathe again. For months went by like a slow leak. Everything drained out. The court finalized the divorce. Dana's alimony claim blew up in her face after my lawyer printed out screenshots of her sipping wine in Santorini, #HealingEra. We sold the house. She pushed for full control of the listing, but the agent shut that down fast. We split it 50-50. I bought a loft downtown. 2 bedrooms. Concrete floors. No yard, no wasted space. Just enough room for me and the table, which I rolled into the middle of the living room like it was the anchor of the whole place. Just help me unpack. What started as coffee turned into dinners. Then dinners turned into nights where neither of us felt like driving home. We didn't announce anything. Didn't change profile pictures or go out holding hands. We just made it official quietly. For us, the fallout didn't stay quiet. One of Dana's cousins saw Jess leaving my place and ran straight to the family group chat. A week later, Dana sent a voice message to Jess, 4 straight minutes of venom. Said she'd stolen her life. Said she'd preyed on her weakest moment. Then her mom got involved. Jess showed me the texts. You're disgusting. You're dead to this family. I hope he leaves you too. That one pissed me off. Jess tried to brush it off at first, like it didn't hit. But then she started crying while folding laundry. No warning. Just tears, shaking hands, silent mouth. I didn't want this, she said. I didn't steal anything. I wrapped my arms around her and held on. You didn't destroy their house, I told her. You're just living in the wreckage Dana left behind. She cried harder. I just sat with her on the floor until the shaking stopped. Every part of her, the steady way she held space for me, the quiet strength under the pain, reminded me what real partnership looked like. She wasn't perfect. Neither was I. But none of it was pretend. She never asked me to prove I was over Dana. Never tried to fill some empty space. She just saw me as I was. Bruised, rebuilding, raw. And she stayed anyway. The drafting table sat between the living room and kitchen, catching sunlight through the wide windows. One afternoon, Jess ran her hand along the edge and said, I love this thing. It makes the place feel like it has a heartbeat. Funny, I said. It's the only thing I brought from the last life that still makes sense in this one. She smiled, not saying anything. We didn't need to name it. We already knew what lasted. A few weeks after the dust settled, Jess landed a freelance project with a national architecture firm based out of Denver. Remote work, high profile, tight deadlines. It was her first big break in a long time. We celebrated with burgers and milkshakes. Nothing fancy, just relief and quiet pride. 3 days in, she got a call from the project lead, a woman named Maria. Jess had her on speaker while she was sketching at the drafting table. "Hey, just a heads up," Maria said. "Someone sent us an email. Anonymous, of course. Said you're unstable, a liar, a homewrecker. Called you manipulative. Said you stole a married man." Jess froze. I stood up from the couch. "You're kidding me." Maria kept going, cool and unfazed. "I forwarded it to HR, but we're not taking it seriously. I've been in this field 20 years. I know exactly what this is. People love to smear women who are thriving." Jess let out a breath. "Thank you. I appreciate the honesty." Maria chuckled. "Appreciate the clean work. Keep it up, and I'll extend your contract." They hung up. Jess sat there, blinking like someone had turned off gravity. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her. "She's scared of you," I said. "She knows she can't touch us anymore, so now she's throwing dirt." Jess didn't say anything for a while. Then she reached for her pencil and went right back to her sketch like she hadn't missed a beat. That was the moment I knew she was done playing defense. She didn't just survive it. She used it. The firm kept her on, gave her more hours, more input. Her name started showing up in credits. She printed one of her final renderings and pinned it above the drafting table like a flag. We became a unit. Us versus the noise. I started blocking people preemptively. If I saw a last name I recognized, they were gone. We stopped justifying anything to anyone. No announcements. No explanations. Just us. One night, after she wrapped the second project, I looked at her across the kitchen island and said, "Want to get married?" She blinked. "You serious?" I nodded. No crowd. No drama. Just us. Jess smiled like she was exhaling something she didn't know she'd been holding. Yeah, I do." We booked tickets to the coast that night. California. Somewhere quiet. Got a license in San Luis Obispo. Found a woman on Yelp who did beach elopements. No frills, just vows and paperwork. We stood barefoot in the sand, wind blowing hard enough to rip the veil off her ponytail. I wore jeans and a linen shirt. She wore a white sundress and the leather bracelet her dad gave her when she was 16. We read our own vows. No audience. No cameras. I said, "I don't want perfect. I just want real. And I want you." She said, "We don't need to rebuild what broke. We can build something new." We kissed, signed the paper, walked back to the car in silence, holding hands. No champagne. No post. Just peace. We didn't tell anyone about the wedding. Not her parents. Not mine. Not even close friends. It wasn't some secret mission. We just didn't know anybody a damn thing. A few weeks later, Jess came out of the bathroom holding a plastic stick with her hand shaking. I looked at her face, not the test. "You good?" I asked. She nodded, smiled, then held it out. 2 solid lines. She cried first. Then I did. We sat on the floor for an hour, not saying much. Just leaning on each other, breathing, trying to take it in. We didn't post. Didn't run to tell the world. We kept it between us, like a spark we weren't ready to let the wind touch. That weekend, I brought the drafting table into the second bedroom. Painted the walls yellow. Clean, warm, soft. The table fit perfectly under the window, the drawers still locked with everything inside. Jess stood in the doorway and whispered. It's like it was waiting. She wanted to tell her family, eventually, but only when it felt right. Then the invitation came. Dana's grandmother still hosted the same damn Christmas Eve dinner every year, in the same big colonial house with fake candles in every window. Jess hadn't been since the breakup with Dana's brother, but this time, the invite came handwritten. No way around it. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked, holding the envelope like it might bite. "Yeah," I said. "Let's go. Let's show up as ourselves." I didn't mean loud. I meant solid. No hiding. No pretending we didn't exist just because it made them squirm. We picked out a small silver picture frame, the kind people use for baby announcements. Inside, instead of a photo, we slid in a slip of white paper with embossed black letters. Coming June 2026. No ultrasound. No names. Just those 3 words. Jess wrapped it in soft blue tissue paper and tied it with silver ribbon. Her hands shook the whole time. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. I don't want this to be war." I kissed her forehead. It's not war if we're not swinging first. That night, before we left, she stood in the nursery doorway again, staring at the table. You think it'll be a boy? I shrugged. I think it'll be ours. That's all I care about. She smiled without saying a word, then grabbed her coat. We drove in silence. Snow dusted the edges of the road, headlights carving the path forward. I held her hand the whole way there. We parked down the street. The house was already glowing with candles in the windows, wreath on the door, the same red bow on the porch railing that Dana's grandmother reused every damn year. Jess held the wrapped frame in her lap, both hands clenched around it like it might fall apart. I reached over, squeezed her knee. You ready? No, she said. But let's go anyway. The second we stepped inside, the air tightened. Dana was standing near the dining room, wine glass in hand, talking loud enough to let everyone know she was in charge. She didn't look at us. Her parents were on the couch. Her mom glanced up, gave Jess a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her dad didn't even bother. No one said hello. Dana's grandmother shuffled over, hugged Jess politely, said, "Good to see you, dear," then moved on like she was checking boxes. We stood for 15 minutes like furniture, Jess clutching the small silver gift like it was the only thing anchoring her to the floor. Finally, Dana rang that stupid little bell she used every Christmas Eve. Gift exchange, she said, with that fake warmth she reserved for performances. Everyone gathered in the living room. Jess reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the frame. Walked over to her parents. She knelt beside her mom and set the gift in her lap. "Merry Christmas," she said, soft but clear. Her mom gave her a look, the kind that asked 100 questions without saying a word. Then she peeled the paper away. Blue tissue. Silver box. She lifted the lid, pulled out the frame. Read the engraving. Coming June 2026. She blinked. Her dad leaned forward, eyebrows raised. He looked from the frame to Jess, then to me, then back to the frame. Dana had been circling the room, sipping her wine, playing gracious host. She noticed the silence and wandered over. "What is it?" she asked. Jess didn't move, just sat on the floor, head up, eyes steady. Dana looked at the frame. She froze. "You're pregnant?" she asked, voice cracking. Jess nodded once. "Calm. And married." The whole room stopped breathing. Dana's face collapsed like a building losing power. Her wine glass tilted in her hand. "You've got to be king kidding me." Her voice shot through the room like a fire alarm. "You're pregnant? With him? You married him?" Jess didn't flinch. "Yes." Dana's whole body jerked forward like she was about to throw the glass. "You stole my king life," she screamed. "My house. My future. You just picked up my scraps and paraded them around like some happy little display." Everyone just stared. Not one person moved to stop her. Not her mom. Not her dad. Not her brother. I stepped between them. "You gave all this up," I said flat. "We just picked up what you left behind." Dana's eyes locked on mine, wild and hollow. "You think this is fair?" she hissed. "You think this is yours? You made your choices," I said. "You made them months before you ever told me. And now you don't get to torch the people who survived them." I turned to her parents. "You threw your daughter away for standing beside someone who was honest with her. You let Dana run the whole show, and now you're shocked the cast changed." Her mom didn't blink. Her dad shifted like he might speak, but nothing came. I took Jess's hand. She stood up slowly, her head high. She didn't say a word. Didn't know them one. We walked past Dana, past her shaking hands and cracked mascara, past the ornaments and fake fireplace and perfect table settings. Not one person stopped us. Not one tried to fix it. We got in the car. Doors shut. Engine started. I looked over. Jess's hand was still gripping mine. Tight. And that's when I knew we hadn't just walked out of a room. We walked out of a chapter. We didn't speak for the first 10 minutes of the drive. Just the heater humming, streetlights sliding past the windshield, her hand still wrapped in mine. Then, real quiet, Jess whispered, "I feel free." I glanced over. Her eyes were red but dry, the kind of tired that's got nothing left to burn. Before we even pulled into the garage, her phone lit up. Then mine. Mom. Dad. Unknown number. We didn't open any of them. We didn't need their cleanup jobs. We weren't looking for closure or explanations. We walked inside, kicked off our shoes, and didn't even bother turning on the lights. Straight to the nursery. The yellow walls glowed in the dim light coming from the hallway. The table sat there under the window like it had been waiting for this moment. Jess dropped to her knees beside it. Can I see it? I knelt down next to her and pressed the bottom corner twice, just like I built it. The latch popped, and the hidden drawer slid out. Inside was a folded stack of my dad's old blueprints. A weathered chisel. A small tin with his favorite pencils. The tape measure with his initials burned into the leather case. Jess didn't speak, just traced her fingers across each item like she was trying to memorize them by feel. He used to measure everything twice, then still look nervous before he cut, I said. She smiled. Sounds like someone I know. I chuckled. He would have liked you. She leaned on my shoulder. We stayed like that for a while. No music, no noise. Just the two of us, sitting in a room we built from the bones of something broken. This wasn't the life I planned 8 years ago. Back then, it was all timelines and targets. 5-year plans, mortgage goals, kid by 35. Everything had to be perfect on paper before it was real. But this was real before it was ready. And it was better. I didn't need a napkin to sketch the next 5 years. Didn't need a spreadsheet to know what came next. I already had the blueprint. Right here, in this house, in this room, in her. Share your thoughts in the comments. How would you react and act in this situation? And also support us by liking and subscribing to our work. Thank you, everyone. Until the next story.